Like, it was just shite.
All of you guys think that I'm like nothing.
I would never say that. Her interview was her look was.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing the worst books of 2020.
I hate her, I tell you now.
So we're going to be chatting about the 10 worst books that I read this year, my 10 least favourite books. This isn't going to be ranked. I'm going to be doing a book awards at the end of the year. I think my last video that will be going up this year. And in that I'll tell you my definite least favourite book of the year and maybe like ranked second and third. But in this video we're just going to be talking about the 10 worst, just in general. So this year I read a total of 4 1-star books and 12 2-star books. So this list is going to have all of the 1-star books and some of the 2 stars. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't already. That would help me out so much. I know it's annoying when people say it, but like and let's just get into it. I'm going to start with the 1-star books. So the first one, let's not even spend any time on this because none of you will care, but it was called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. I read this, I think it was like the second book I read this year. I read it for my reading my favourite footballers' favourite books video. If you don't know, support Norwich City, which are a football team in the UK. And I've DM'd them all and asked them their favourite books, and a few of them responded. And this book... it was the favourite book of my favourite footballer, Mario Vrancic, aka like my celebrity crush. Like I'm obsessed with him. Like, so I can't believe he DM'd me. Mario. And so I feel so bad that I hated his favourite book, but it was bad. It's like a self-help book about like overcoming mental difficulties, and like it's like a self-help book about like how to achieve what you want. But it was kind of like weird. It was kind of misogynistic, but it was talking about like how to get your perfect wife and how the perfect wife should like serve your dreams.
It's not for me, Mark. I feel terribly ill all of a sudden.
It was an old book, but like I didn't vibe with that. I remember I was driving while listening to that bit and I was like, excuse me, what? So yeah, this book was bad. It was 1 star, but none of you care, so let's leave it at that. And I'm sorry, Mario Vrancic. It can still work out, even though I don't like your favourite book. So the thing with my 1-star books is none of them are books that I wanted to read. Like, they're all books I read for videos. So I don't know if any of them can be my worst book of the year, because I feel like your worst book of the year has to have some level of disappointment with it. And I kind of went into all of these books thinking they were going to be trash. But the second one is Rebel City Avenger by Kendall and Kylie Jenner. I read this for a reading vlog. This book is a mess. I don't understand why this happened. I don't think Kendall and Kylie Jenner really wanted this to happen. It is so terrible.
Yeah, he's terrible, Your Honor. He's really terrible.
I don't even know where to start in describing the plot of this to you. I don't think I even can. It's about these twins who get separated at birth. One goes into poverty, one goes into like royalty essentially. There is so many fucked up, stupid, like so stupid, like it's the most stupid ever plot things in this. Like, one thing that sticks with me is that girls, for like their kind of like initiation into the upper class society, have to do this ball, but they stand on a pedestal and it raises them like high up in the air and it spins really fast and they have to strike poses like on the pedestal whilst it's spinning and like try not to fall over, and if you fall over that's like, oh my god, she's never gonna get a husband. Like, what even?
I'm gonna fucking win. There ain't fucking funny, Tammy. Don't start laughing. That was the funniest I have ever heard. And I've been here 46 years.
What? What? That makes no sense. It was like half a book. They'd obviously come up with the idea for like the second book, but it was one book and they've just split it in half. Like, this ends halfway through a middle of a book. It was so badly written. I can't believe they paid someone to ghostwrite this. With all of your money, hire someone who's good at writing. Like, don't hire nobody. Like, you have the money to actually get a good ghostwriter, so why would you do this? It is just awful. It was so bad. It was so bad. Like, I don't even want to think about it. This book made me ill. Some of you ask me, Megan, are you ever going to read the second one? I genuinely don't know if I can do that to myself. This was so bad. It was so bad.
Y'all already know how we feel about this. Shall we move on, Zale?
Because it's shit!
Next is The Beautiful Dead Jonas Book 1 by Eden Maguire. I've spoken about this before. This was in my reading childhood favourite paranormal fantasy romance video. And this was the worst of the lot. I've spoken about how I made everyone read this book when I was in secondary school. It was in our library and I just made everyone read it. And like all my friends liked it, so I don't know what we were on, but this is so bad. Essentially it's about, what's our girl called? Everyone has really weird names. Okay, Dorina, her boyfriend dies and like she's wandering around feeling so sad, like, oh my god, my boyfriend's dead. And she stumbles across this barn where her boyfriend is getting like risen from the dead by all these other dead kids that have lived in the area, and they see her and they're like, and like I think they knock her out or something. Basically it's about these kind of zombies that the dead kids from the school are. Basically they get a year to figure out how they died. They all died in mysterious accidents and they get a year to come back and figure out what actually happened to them. And so each of the books is Dorina helping. She strikes a deal that she can like hang out with her boyfriend if she helps all of the other ones whose years are up before him to figure out what happened. So this is about Jonas, who died in a motorcycle accident, and like it's so bad.
I'm so tired, yeah. I'm so tired. I'm really tired.
Like some of the worst writing. I think the writing in this may even be worse than Rebel City of Indra. I remember Dorina has this like boyfriend, a friend who's a boy, who like obviously has a thing for her, bearing in mind her boyfriend has been dead for like maybe a week, and like he's trying to make a move on her, and she's like, I'm not ready, like I don't want this, and he goes,
so what, I'm now competing with a dead guy?
Plot wise, it has no plot, it's nonsensical. It was bad. And then the last one star I read this year was The Gender Game. Who's this even by? By Bella Forrest. I swear this is actually quite a popular book. I don't understand why. This has 42,000 Goodreads ratings. Excuse me? And it has an average rating of 3.82, which isn't that bad. Who is reading this? And isn't there, I think there's like 9 books in this series. There's 7 books. Who allowed this?
Sorry, I have to laugh just because just the fact that you...
I read this in my booktuber scavenger hunt video, and Zoe from Zoe's All Booked told me that I had to read a book I thought was going to be 1 star. So I just went and I found this book. This is about a society where on one side of this river it's a society ruled completely by women and men are like shunned out, and the other side is men, like patriarchy, etc. But the book isn't interesting. It doesn't stay in the matriarchy, it just goes to the patriarchy, and you're like, what the fuck? And there's this whole like romance and undercover mystery. You don't want to know, like you don't want me to tell you the plot. But this has a completely binary view of gender, which I found so irritating. Like, you are either manly man or you are either girly girl. Like, that's what we're dealing with here. Why would you set it in the patriarchy, which is what we are in anyway? Like, give me some flavour. I don't understand.
Where's the flavour? Where's the flavour in this?
And the end of this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever read. I don't even want to think about it. I can't emphasise to you enough just how bad this book was. All of these 1-star books are just like, how has this even been published? How did this get 6 more books? And how have so many people read this and seemingly liked it?
Can't get any worse than what it is. Can it? It can't get any worse. We're at the bottom.
The next books are all ones that are 2 stars. So these are all slightly better. So the first of the 2 stars, people get angry at me. Whenever I trash talk this book, the video gets loads of dislikes, I lose loads of subscribers. You don't have to do that if you like this book. I'm just gonna say it to you now. Like, we can still be friends, we can disagree over one book. Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
So this is like BookTube's darling. Like, everyone loves this. Everyone loves it so much.
It ain't good.
Basically, this follows the son of the President of the United States and a Prince of England and their romance. It's enemies to lovers, but it's not, because they both fancy each other. Like, if you're gonna give me enemies to lovers, give me, like, I hated you, not I hate you because I fancy you. I want hate. I want hate! A problem I have with this is Henry the Prince of England, his characterization. Okay, he's like a robot. He's like not even a real person. Completely a caricature of a British prince. And here's the thing. I'm not here saying, oh, I love the royal family, because I don't I don't particularly like the royal family. But I think he just could have been a more interesting character. He is just like, oh, Toodle Pip. I think it would have been so much more interesting if the prince on this was like a wild prince, like Prince Harry's wild phase, like party guy. I think that would have been so much more fun, and I think it would have allowed him to be a bit different. I also felt like this book had 10 endings. Like, that's an exaggeration. Maybe like 3 or 4. There were like 3 or 4 times where this book could have ended, and I was like, we're done now. And then another scene would come and it'd be another ending. I'm like, why? Like, why are we doing this? The book doesn't need this. It was so pointless. I'm sorry if you love this book. I'm glad you love it. I don't.
That's my opinion!
Another romance that I read this year and rated really low was Next Year in Havana by Chanel Cleaton. It's 2 romance stories. One is Marisol in the present day, going back to Cuba, and one is her grandmother and the romance that she had in Cuba at the time. I just hated the writing in this. I thought it was really poorly written. There's not many times I read a book and I'm like, this is just like, especially a book that's so popular like this, like it's pretty well liked. There's not many times I read a book like this and think it's just bad, like it's just not well written. I do have a problem, it seems, with like dual timeline stories if they don't directly relate to one another. So like the guest list, you have it flicking back and forth between the night before the wedding and the night of the wedding. I think that's good because you learn stuff about each other, but when the timelines are so drastically far apart, I just find it's like 2 half stories. Like it's just not there on either front for me, and it just dragged. Like the pacing was so bad. Oh, okay, the next one. Next is A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. So my timing with this was impeccable because I read this and then literally I think like a day after I finished it, the whole scandal with Mackenzie Lee broke. If you don't know, she was like signing other people's books in a bookstore, like people hadn't bought yet, and saying like, don't read this book, read mine. Who does that?
Delusion. Convince yourself.
So this was trash. It's about this guy and his best friend and his sister and like their trip through Europe. I can't even remember the plot. Like I know they go to like find something or retrieve something, but it's bad. Like this again, so badly written. Like it was just shite.
All of you guys think that I'm like nothing.
I would never say that. Her interview with her look with her book cover with her trying to launch and sell her book to the judges with I would never say that.
I think I remember feeling like the portrayal of bisexuality was a bit icky, like just a bit like this was not it. Like it wasn't good. And I have no interest in ever reading anything Mackenzie Lee ever writes again because next, I am actually sad to say this, but next is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. So this is the last in the Grishaverse original trilogy. And I love Leigh Bardugo, like I'm obsessed with her. I think she's amazing. I love Ninth House. It's like kind of hiding.
Beyonce has my number. Man, Beyonce talks every now and then. She checks up on me.
But Ninth House was a 5-star for me. One of my favourite books. I can absolutely not wait to read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I think I could give everything outside of this original trilogy 5 stars from her. Like, I genuinely do. But this wasn't it. If you ask me what happened in this book, who the fuck knows? Like, genuinely, who knows? I think that the series gets worse as it goes along. So this is about Alina, I'm sure you know, who is like the sun summoner, so she can like summon light, and it's about the Darkling, who is kind of her enemy, and it's about the Darkling who is kind of her enemy, but kind of like, he could hit, you know, like that's their vibe. There's this whole battle, like a battle happens. This is what this book is leading up to, and what the whole series is led up to is this big battle. I can't remember a single thing. I remember the audiobook was good. So if you want to read this series, I would recommend the audiobooks because I think the narrator for the audiobook was great. I don't really care. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Second to last is the worst thriller I read this year, and that was The Silent Patient by, is it Alex Michaelides, I think? This one... this one Goodreads thriller of the year last year. Why? So this is about a woman who is accused of killing her husband and she hasn't spoken since the trial. And we are reading it through the eyes of like her psychiatrist or the guy who's working on her case. The depiction of like her mental health in this, she's not even really the star of the story, and I wish she had been. Like the depiction of mental health, the depiction of women, trash. The end reveal, trash. The like clues, trash. The men in this, trash. Remember that? Trash. I really thought the reveal, like the plot, the actual idea of this book was cheap. I didn't appreciate it, and I thought just the rep in this, the way it was written, I just thought it wasn't good. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's particularly thrilling. I think it's boring. I don't care about you and your relationship with your girlfriend, Mr. Psychiatrist Man. Like, I don't care. I don't care about your life. I want to know about this woman and why she's not speaking. Why are we suddenly caught up in you? And I'm sad that it won, because we deserve better. And then the last worst book I read this year was Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer.
Thank God you're here. Where have you been, bitch? Where have you bloody been?
Why the fuck? She has no business being this big. There was no reason. There was no reason. So this, if you don't know, is the retelling of Twilight from Edward's perspective. And like, Edward, I hated being in his head. I hated it.
This is not for me.
No. It was torture to read this. Like, Edward... Okay, here's the thing. You had the opportunity, Stephanie Meyer, to make the whole stalking thing maybe less creepy. I mean, I don't know how you would do it, but you're the writer. It's your job to figure that out. The stalking thing, like the letting himself into her room at night thing, it got creepier. Like, this guy would just go on for pages and pages about how sad he is. And I'm like, can we just move on? And I think when you have read the story before, I just wanted to be more exciting. The things that saved this was like Alice, Rosalie was really interesting, Jasper was really interesting. Like, the Cullen saved it. Edward, it almost made me not love him. I genuinely don't think this needed to happen. Like, it didn't need to exist. It didn't need to be this long. It's a cash grab. Bella was actually way more interested in this book. I think Stephanie Meyer just can't write from someone's point of view. Like, whoever's point of view she's in seems, like, pathetic. So that is the worst 10 books I read this year. Let me know if you disagree with me on any of these. I would really like to hear any disagreements. Let me know also what some of the worst books you read this year were so I can stay away. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you've got to the end, comment the smiling devil emoji. I really like that emoji. Comment that emoji so I know you've gotten to the end. And thank you so much again. I will see you very, very soon in another video. Bye!